trade. Um, this is PRCH, which I actually just alerted. First of all, the 5 minute looks great here. You can see this is a perfect forming cup. It bounced really nicely off of the 20 EMA here. The volume could be better. It's picking up a little bit, but then we can switch over to the 1 hour. Um, First of all, I just want to say that fibs can be pulled from right to left. It doesn't always have to be from left up to right. Um, and so I trade this way most of the time, and the targets are usually within cents. So here you can see on the 1 hour, we have a little bit of a bull flag, and this is setting up perfectly above this 23% at 1931. So this is giving me a little bit of confirmation that this is breaking trend. Let's just bring a trend line down. And this is, you can see, I mean, this could be a little nicer. But from this point here, it touches this candle wicks past, touches that one, touches this one closed underneath it. So I'm pretty positive that this trend line is accurate. And as you can see, this candle is setting up very nicely above it. And so ideally the entry would be above this level here at 2026. I took a little bit of an early entry. I plan to average into these, but this is a solid chart in my opinion. I really like this. So once it hits up here, this 38%, I'm going to add more to my position, or if it falls and can hold this line here at 17, I'll add more to my position down there. If it falls beneath that, I will close the position. I no longer want it. And so averaging down, you always want to average down kind of at these key levels. And then if you're going to average up, you want to average up on breakouts. So that's my plan here. I will be taking profits partially here at 21. So the fib is 2180. I'll probably take some profits at 2170. And then I'll let some ride and see if we can get up to the 2280s. Whenever your target here is 2180, something very specific like that, I always try to take profits a little bit sooner, just because who else is watching this fib and plans on taking profits at that point. I don't want to get caught in some sort of liquidation crisis. I want to get out while the stock is strong, while it's still moving up very nicely. So it's very important to make sure that you have your profits kind of planned out already, which is also something to talk about. Whenever you're entering a trade, you want to do exactly what I just kind of broke down here. Have your average down points, your average up points. You want to have your exits planned. You want to have your stop losses set up. You want to make sure that you have your entire plan thought out before you take the entry. You need to have everything done before you take an entry. So just make sure that you've got everything taken care of. So this is a swing trade. Now day trades are going to be a little bit different. So let's check out Tesla 5-minute. So Tesla on the 5-minute, where did I enter? I entered here. So I entered on the break. Oh, no, it must have been here. So this was a little bit of a bull flag on the 5-minute. 5 minutes are a tiny bit unreliable, especially this early in the morning. But I entered on the break of this bull flag. So once it got over this price level here and over these candle wicks, I took my entry and it climbed all the way up, sold some actually perfectly at the top as it was touching this price level. So again, planning your exits, which was right here at 708.16, took 25% off the table there, held down through here, and sold my last couple. It was, I believe, up here. It could have been on this pop, I don't know, but I got 42% on the last ones. So, which is good because it's trading flat, and so that would just kind of kill your profit. But this is a perfect example of planning your exits, and that's going to ensure you have kind of a streamlined, non-emotional trade. So I took these candles. You can see that was a solid price level here, and then this was a solid price level here, which is actually the one that it respected. So I was watching both of these. and either one of these could have been my exit. I ended up sticking with this one because it pushed through this with a bit of strength. Um, and then it started to set up as a bull flag. And so once it set up as a bull flag, I wasn't really too worried about my last contract. I didn't sell my last contract because it didn't fall beneath this, which is support now. And so if the trade is still valid, don't exit your trade. You have no reason to. So even though, yes, it went up here and it started to fall, it still is holding true to the TA, and that's what you want to respect. You could either buy more down here and average down, or I guess that would be averaging up. But as long as the TA is holding up and it's a trade that you would enter if you had no contracts at all, then it's good to hold yours. So this is a solid bull flag, and I would enter this even if I wasn't in the trade already. And so that's why it's nice to hold some of your contracts, scale out for profit up here, secure them, and then hold some of your contracts for potential continuation. So that's kind of what I look for in a day trade. You can see here it looks like it might actually start pushing up again. It's going to start bouncing off of this 20 EMA again. The point of control is here, so you can see this is where most of the shares were traded today on the 5-minute time frame. So if it can push up higher, it looks like 721 is the next target, which that is a price level from here. So previous support becomes the new resistance. So 721.92, and then it's probably gonna have trouble here at 729 and then 735. So those are the new targets. I will re-enter if this starts to break out. Let's check the 15-minute. This is consolidating really nicely. So I'm very confident that this is going to continue up and push up to the 720s, 730s possibly. So I'll be watching Tesla. I'll go over XL because we just hit XL for, I believe, 50%, 54%. And so this trade, I mean, I should probably do it on the 1 minute just because it's kind of tough to see here. So I actually entered here on the break of these highs. So it tested, I mean, you can count that as 1, 2, 3 tests at this level, 1475, and it could not break. As soon as it broke over this, I started watching it, and once it held, that's where I took my entry. So I took my entry on this candle here. It also broke over the morning highs. And so I took my entry, it immediately rocketed up, had a little bit of a pullback right to this support level here, and it immediately rocketed up again. We exited some of them for 40 or 54%, and now it's consolidating, and it looks like it's respecting the EMAs. So I will be holding this for a swing. The 1 hour chart looks fine. It looks like it's kind of consolidating down here, and it's making this a low, a base low. So I don't really see it going further down than this. A little bit of a bull flag here. So we're just going to hope that it can gap fill this 16 area. That would give us some healthy profits on our contracts. So looking for, this is kind of a day trade / swing trade. So you really want to identify those resistance points. Make sure that you've got everything mapped out. These wicks here were pretty strong because once it broke through those, it just took off. As you can see, this is a 1458 to 1665, 1565. So this is a full delta move here on these 10 minutes. This was a really strong push. So that's what you want to look out for, is just any break of the wicks like that. Actual stocks to trade. I have my watch list here, which is full of stocks that I trade often or I'm kind of expecting to make a move soon. So I have a lot of stocks on here, and you just kind of go through these all day, every day, and you look for potential moves to happen. So like Zoom actually right now looks really nice, a little cup. Hopefully this can make a little handle down to 401.75 and then break out further. So I pretty much just click through these all the time. Look for any setups that are happening, even if the stock is down or up. Vuzi, like this is amazing. You can see that this was a little bit of a bull flag here. So I'm sure on the 15-minute, yeah, that pops up. So the 15-minute bull flag breakout, that's great, and it's actually going to be breaking through these highs. I'm going to go ahead and connect those points there. So This is breakout territory in there. So that's how I just kind of cycle through all my stocks. You can see here, this is an inverse head and shoulders, possibly breaking out on Veru. They actually just got FDA approval today, I believe. So this one could be on watch. And then another good thing to look for is, I like to go through the open interest scanner on bar charts. And this just tells you all of the high volume options of this day. So as you can see, Zynga is trading at 11.44 right now. Somebody bought a call with an 11.50 strike for March 12th. There's 11 days to expire. It's currently about 40 cents. And they bought 29,783 of them, which is incredible. So there was roughly 800, 700 of them. And then they bought 29,783. So now the open interest is 30,000. That seems odd. Baba has the same, so 20,000 bought. It just kind of tells you all of the ones that are super high today. So it's really great to look at for either confluence in your trade. If you missed maybe something on the chart, potential insider trading. So these are good to look at read this and then add Zynga to the watch list and then just kind of watch it from here on. There might be some news coming out with it, or somebody knows something that we don't, so we want to watch it closely. This could start to be a big mover. So that's another way that I find some trades, but the most reliable way for me is just kind of cycling through the stocks on my watch list and finding potential plays that are about to happen. So Square looks like it could make a move today if it's able to break this triple top out of 241.15. That could be a nice mover. And it looks like the next resistance would be 245.85. So that's actually a perfect triple top. 246, let's go with 245.81. So that gives you a nice little $4 move from there. So 4 deltas on your contract, which is some awesome profits. Just go through, build your watch list, trade your watch list. It's really also smart to hop into a stock that you trade all the time. Just pick 1 or 2 stocks and trade those every day. So you'll kind of learn how they move. You'll learn what to look out for. I do this with SPY and I do this with Tesla all the time. What is happening here? 380 to 389. Wow. So I do that with SPY all the time. I trade this often, and I do the same thing with Tesla. So if you just are constantly trading the same stock, you kind of learn what's going on with it. I'm not sure what's happening here. You learn how to trade it. It's always going to have similarities to previous days that you've traded it. So you kind of learn what it's going to respect, what it's going to not respect, EMA wise or TA wise. So definitely come up with a watch list and try to stick with only a couple of stocks at first before you start branching off into multiple other ones. So for trading a breakout, you can see here Vail actually just broke out of this cup. And so this is on the 15-minute time frame. So what you would want to see is for this to come down and retest it. Let's switch over to the 5. So this candle here, we should see come down and retest this. You always want to wait for a retest of the breakout. You never want to just enter on the breakout candle because oftentimes it does come down to retest this level. So you can see here, it has a large wick above the body. And what that does is it shows that it tried to reach, high of the day and it couldn't do it. There were too many sellers. So it pulled down here. It's trying again, but again, there is a wick. This is actually called a tweezer top when there's 2 wicks parallel with each other like that. And it could go for it, I guess. But ideally, you would wait for a pullback here and then some consolidation and then a push back up, and that would be the breakout. So Veil, this is a really, really nice breakout. You just want to see a retest. So always make sure to wait for that. Oh, there it is. And point of control just formed up here. So that means there's a lot of selling happening right there. So this retest should come down here at least the same length of this candle, consolidate for a minute, and then push back up. So this is QS on the 5-minute, and as you can see here, we have a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern. So what this is doing is it's setting up to move more to the downside, and so you can enter calls on, it would be the break of this here. So let's see, this is the neckline, and you could enter puts as soon as that breaks. So as you can see here, it broke down, and now it has free fall to here. This is the next line of support. It's, you know, a full dollar away. So trading the downside is just as important as trading the upside, just because the downsides tend to move a lot faster, so you can really scalp. You can scalp puts pretty easily. As you can see, volume is dying down. So you wouldn't necessarily want to trade this with low volume, just because there could be low volatility. You want something that has more like this, or even like this. You can see this is consistent volume all the way across. This is just super low volume. So always make sure that you're taking a look at the volume at the bottom or the side of your chart, wherever it is. But this looks like it's going to continue down. So I would assume that we end the day probably around 56.50. That looks like a pretty accurate number if it does not hold here at 57.03. So this could also be support. But yeah, the head and shoulders is really important to pay attention to as well. And then, you know, PayPal, this is trading in a wedge, and the wedge does not have to be perfect. So as you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points touching this top trend line. You want at least 3 points touching your trend line when you're drawing a wedge. It's okay to have the wicks poking through as long as the majority of the trend holds true. I'm not going to adjust this to hit the wick, you know, because yes, that's accurate, but you're missing all of this, and I guarantee you it's not going to be trading in this long of a wedge all day. It's going to break out somewhere over here. So you can let it pass through wicks. Sometimes you can let it pass through candles. You really just want the most touches, because that's what's validating your trend line. You really want to focus on where most points will be touching your trend lines. So this is how I would draw this wedge, and it looks like it is kind of coiling up a little bit. I don't necessarily think it's going to break up, but that's something to look out for. And then you can just kind of cycle through here. NVIDIA looks fine. Roku. So Roku on the daily chart is kind of a head and shoulders, but it looks like it's reversing a little bit. So you've got this green reversal candle. If it can break over these EMAs, that's solid. This is really, I think, a good entry point here over these two candles. So 419, I would safely enter there, and then you have a gap to 434 to fill. So gap filling would be when, let me get rid of this. Gap filling is when a stock opens the next day higher, like much higher or much lower, and then there's a gap with no candle in it. So as you can see, there's a gap here. When that happens, the stock tends to go up to fill that gap, or if it was trading up here, it would go down to fill that gap. And once it fills the gap, then it can kind of start to reverse back the direction it was going. So it will probably fill this gap and then start working down. So that's something to look out for. I'm going to mark that. Wow, what is happening here? All right, well, I'll just mark it there. So it is gap filling to this section here, and that's something that I do want to play, because that is from here at 419 to here. That is a $15 move, which is huge. But for Roku, that's fairly easy. So look out for gap fills as well. And the RSI, as you can see, is curling up. It's almost over 50, which is good. And around 58, 60 is kind of where we would start looking at entries. You really want the RSI to move towards the upper side of things. You want all those buyers stepping in, and you kind of want those people that are stepping in with FOMO, just because that is what drives the stock higher a lot of the times. So this would be a really nice scalp, not necessarily a long trade. Maybe you could hold it for a couple days. So that's what I look for. It's down to planning your entire trade before you enter. You want to have your entry, like, okay, I'm going to plan my entry and just kind of bring up my contracts or whatever. So as soon as it hits this level, I can enter. You want to plan your exit. Make sure it's at either a resistance point and you're scaling out, or if it's at support and you're averaging down, or if it falls beneath that and it's at your stop loss. So just, again, making sure that you have your entire trade planned out. Another thing that I do is I don't check my profit and loss on my trade. I watch the chart only, and if the chart becomes invalidated, if the technical analysis becomes invalidated, then I will exit my trade. But if it's still valid, a lot of the times I never check my profit and loss, and then once the breakout happens, or if I can see that it's losing steam, or if it's approaching some kind of resistance, like if it were headed up here, I would be then going to my trade and looking at my P&L and exiting. But that really helps out a lot. It kind of separates you from the emotional side of trading. So try your hardest to not focus on the money aspect, which sounds stupid because that's what it's all about. But you shouldn't be trading with more than you can lose anyway. So the emotions should be set aside. If you are worried about your money, then you're probably trading with a bit too much. Focus on smaller positions. You want smaller percents even, just because if you can hit 5% on whatever amount you're trading with, you'll double that amount within a month if you're able to do that every single day. So obviously if you hit 10% one day, you're able to take a 5% loss the next day and still have a 5% carryover. So make sure that you have realistic goals set for yourself, and practice TA. That's what it all comes down to. So really what you want is you want your technical analysis correct. You want your trades to be planned. You want a correct amount of capital that you're using, 1 to 5% of your portfolio with a 20% stop loss that risks no more than 1% of your total portfolio. Have all of this planned out, and that's how you get started. From there, it's pretty easy. As long as you can follow all of these rules, you'll most likely be profitable.